Okay, good afternoon, my students. Today is Wednesday, April 1st. So I wanted to go into genetics a little bit more. This will be the second lecture of the week. So I will give you one more assignment, and that assignment will be due this Friday, April the 3rd. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, I recommend, again, you watch this video. If you still don't understand it or you still need a little bit of clarification, then you can always send me a private message or an email, and I will do my best to explain it through there. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to review is these three terms: heterozygous, homozygous dominant, and homozygous recessive. Okay, so the first one is heterozygous. So in the previous lecture, we saw that hetero means different. So something that is heterozygous is going to have a genotype that has different size letters. The individual alleles, the individual letters are going to be different sizes. Okay, so examples of that are going to be something like big A, little a, big B, little b. Whatever letters you're using, big F, little f. Okay, whatever letters you are using, if they are different size, you have a capital letter, lowercase letter, then that means that genotype is heterozygous. Okay, again, just to refresh, these two letters together represent your genotype, and the individual letters themselves are known as your alleles. Alleles. Did I spell that right? I'm sorry. Those are your alleles. Okay, so your body uses these as a code that has a special message that is in your DNA and your chromosomes, and that determines your phenotype or how you look. Okay, so the next one is homozygous dominant. So in the previous lecture, we saw that the prefix homo means same. So this genotype has two letters that are the same size. And then whether they're uppercase or lowercase is determined by the second part, which is dominance. And again, from the previous lecture, dominant means a little bit stronger. So that's represented by capital letters. Okay, so if you put that together, the genotype here, represented by two letters, is going to have two letters that are the same size, and they are both going to be capital letters. So the way that might be written would be big A, big A, big B, big B, capital F, capital F. Okay, so those are some examples of something that is homozygous dominant. And then finally, the last one is homozygous recessive. And again, homo means same. Recessive means this is the weaker traits. So that is represented with lowercase letters. Okay, so the genotype here is going to be represented by two lowercase letters, two letters that are the same size, and they are both lowercase. So we will see that with lowercase a, little b, little f, little f. Okay, so that's basically a quick summary of what we covered in the previous lecture. Okay, so now that we know how to read our genotypes, okay, our letters, right? Now we know how to write these. So now I want us to move on to be able to interpret them. Okay, what do these letters mean? So I want to go over a couple of examples with you students to go into a little bit more detail. Okay, so you might have a couple of examples that look like this. So if you're given an example that says pink flowers are dominant to yellow flowers. Okay, so you are going to be able to go from this phrase and come up with the genotype that would represent this scenario. Okay, since we are talking about flowers, I'm going to use the letter F as my genotype to represent the color of flowers. Okay, so since it says pink flowers are dominant, that means capital F, my dominant trait or my dominant allele, is going to be for pink flowers. And the same letter, do not change the letter, since both letters need to be both alleles need to have the same letter. So we're using F. That means yellow flowers are going to be recessive. So a lowercase f is going to represent your yellow flowers. So if we come up with our three examples, so something in this example, something that is big F, little f, something that is heterozygous, since it has this capital F, that means the dominant trait is going to be expressed. So if a flower has capital F, lowercase f, then in this example, this flower is going to be pink because it has that capital F. That capital F is dominant, it's stronger, so that trait, that physical characteristic is going to be expressed. Okay, so then let's go to the next one, which is homozygous dominance. So something that is big, oops, let's do a different color. Something that is big F, since it has both capital Fs, both dominant alleles, then this one is going to also be pink. This flower is also going to be pink. Okay. And the last scenario, your homozygous recessive. So in this case, recessive, again, lowercase letter. So homozygous recessive is going to be little f, little f. Since they are both recessive, they are both little, that means in this case, the trait that is going to be expressed is going to be your yellow flowers. So the only way for a recessive trait to be expressed is if you have homozygous recessive genotype. So that is the only way for, in this, again, just in simple monohybrid and simple genetics, the only way for the recessive trait to be expressed is if you have homozygous recessive, two lowercase letters as your genotype. Okay, so let's go ahead and go on to the next example. So it says brown eyes are dominant to blue eyes. Okay, So brown eyes are dominant. Brown eyes are dominant to blue eyes. Since the trait we are looking at here has to do with the color of your eyes, I'm going to use letter E as my, like I said, as a letter to represent my genotype. So I'm going to have a capital E and a lowercase e. So it says brown eyes are dominant. So my dominant allele, my dominant uppercase letter is going to be for brown eyes, are dominant to blue eyes. So that means blue eyes is my recessive trait. So then my lowercase e is going to be for blue eyes. Okay, so just like before, the three situations that you can experience is your genotype being heterozygous, or it could be homozygous dominant, or it could be a homozygous recessive. So let's see what phenotype, what physical characteristic, physical appearance will occur if you have these three situations. Okay, so the first one, that is heterozygous. Since there is a capital letter present, all you need is to have one dominant allele present and the dominant trait will be expressed. So this one, since it has that capital E, this individual is going to have brown eyes. Okay, the second situation, the one that is homozygous dominant, big E, since it has both dominant alleles, for this individual, the dominant trait is going to be expressed. So this one is also going to have brown eyes. And then in the last situation, your homozygous recessive trait is or homozygous recessive genotype, excuse me, that is when you're going to have your recessive trait be expressed. So my recessive trait is blue eyes. So my last individual is going to have blue eyes. Okay, so that is it for this lecture, my students. So that is, this is what the next assignment is going to be on, going from something that looks like this, the words, going from the words and then coming up with the genotypes and the phenotypes for that example. So that's what your next assignment is going to be on. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. If you have any questions, comments, concerns over this, once you see the assignment, please let me know. Again, you can leave me a private comment on Google Classroom, or you can send me an email. Okay, so that will be it, my students. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.